Forget the supermarket. Survival in rural fiction depends on the living, breathing food systems built into the backyard. In this episode, we'll explore how chickens, pigs, cows, rabbits, and bees don't just fill bellies with their meat, but sustain your characters with eggs, milk, honey, and even bread or crops. These animals aren't just side notes. They're the engine behind the meals, the harvest, and the realism that your readers crave. Learn about all this and more on today's episode. Welcome to Writing Rule with Allie, the Fiction Writer's weekly inspiration station for rural life and lifestyles, from historical to post-apocalyptic, helping you bring your rural stories to life. I'm Allie, and this is episode number 101. Meat and Meaning, the top 5 animals every fiction writer should know. Stick around to the end to find out all the ways things could possibly go wrong in your story. Now, let's get into this. Number 1. Cows. I know we all saw this one coming. Cow is one of the most popular meats worldwide. Who doesn't love a good burger? The average cow yields 450 pounds of meat, which is a lot of meat in today's terms. But cows are versatile animals, and meat, while yummy, is not the most coveted product that they are good for. Do you know what is? If you guessed eggs, I have a nice old encyclopedia set for you to read. If you guessed milk, you're right. Milk, as most people know it today, is a drink that comes from the store, but there's a whole lot more to milk that comes straight from the cow. There are many things that can be made from milk. Some of these are cheese, yogurt, butter, cream, cottage cheese, whey, ghee, condensed milk, evaporated milk, powdered milk. Milk is also added to many types of foods: baked goods, ice cream, milkshakes, custards, pudding, sausage like Alfredo sauce, eggnog, and a whole lot more. In many parts of the world, the internal organs are eaten. These include the liver, heart, kidneys, brain, and even the stomach lining. The tongue is also a popular one in certain parts of the world and can be found in many grocery stores here in the U.S. I know, because I have been surprised to see a cow tongue at my local store. Now, there is one last thing that cows do that help your characters eat. They poop. No, we are not eating their poo. Ew. Cow poop is often used as a garden fertilizer. It's true in history in modern times and will likely be true long after an apocalypse. Adding cow poop, called manure, to crops enhances the soil and helps with crop output. Number 2. Rabbits. I know that this is a touchy one for some people, but it's a realistic one in all of history, in many places in modern times, and will likely be common after an apocalypse. So let's talk about it. Rabbits have been hunted and bred for meat, leather, manure, and wool. Yes, there's a type of rabbit that produces wool. However, we're talking food, so let's stick to that. The average meat rabbit weighs between 2.5 and 3.5 pounds. We'll split it down the middle and say 3 pounds. The average litter size is between 8 and 6. So let's go with 6 for the sake of math. The litters are big enough to eat at between 8 to 10 weeks old. So let's say that your character has 2 female rabbits, and we'll math that out. 2 does plus 5 litters a year equals 10 litters. 10 litters times 6 kits equals 60 rabbits. 60 rabbits at 3 pounds of meat each equals 180 pounds of meat per year. Now, 180 pounds is impressive in and of itself. But remember when we talked about the cow being 450 pounds? Well, using that same formula, if your character had 5 female rabbits, that gives them 450 pounds, the same amount of meat as a cow. This is a big deal if your character doesn't have a lot of money or space to buy or raise a cow. Rabbits take up a lot less space and they eat less food. This is one reason that they were very popular in history, are very common in rural areas today, and will likely become very popular after an apocalypse. Just ask any doomsday prepper. They likely have them, or at least want them. To top this off, the fact that they can eat the meat quickly and do not have to store the meat is a huge asset that many people in history loved. Now, if your character is hunting rabbits, this is a bit different. Wild rabbits tend to yield approximately 1 pound of meat, which is fine, but it's not as much meat as a meat rabbit, hence the name meat rabbit. The insides of a rabbit, the liver, kidneys, heart, etc., can be used as fishing bait. This gives your character another type of meat, and trust me, eating the same thing day after day gets old, and your character will be glad for a change every now and again. Now, like cows, rabbit's poop is used by many as a crop and garden fertilizer. Many gardeners today call rabbit poop black gold, and it can be sold for large amounts of money to use as a fertilizer. In fact, as of the time that I am writing this in 2025, an online search shows that 3-pound bags sell for just over $20, and local searches from individuals show that 5-pound bags go for between $10 and $20. Now, there are 2 important notes about rabbits. Wild rabbits can carry a disease called rabbit fever that is infectious to humans. Its technical name is one that I can't pronounce. The risk of getting this is reduced in the winter months, which is why everyone waits for the first very hard frost before anyone goes hunting for rabbits. Now, another important note on this is that there is folklore that says that there are brain-eating worms that make a person go insane if they're infected, and the rabbits that have them will die off in the winter. I've always heard this one called weevils, but talking to other people, they've heard other names. Either way, this one is not true, but it is true that rabbits carry normal parasites and that the meat should always be fully cooked to prevent infections in people. Another important thing to note is that rabbit meat is lean. So lean that there are documented cases in history of people dying from what is called rabbit starvation. Rabbit starvation is when the food, normally meat, has so little fat on it that the body can't process it correctly to extract the nutrients that the body needs to survive. Yes, small amounts of fat need to be consumed for the human body to be able to absorb the nutrients. Without it, people can literally starve to death, hence the name rabbit starvation. Rabbit starvation is mostly documented when winters were harsh and rabbit meat was all that they could eat for long periods of time. Number 3, pigs. We all know that meat comes with this one. Pig is one of the most popular meats. Ham and bacon are 2 favorites. My personal favorite is pork chops. In some areas, the brain, liver, and kidneys are considered delicacies. And don't forget that in history, sausage was stored in cleaned out pig intestines. Now, the most common non-meat part that comes from a pig is lard. I have a whole episode on lard and a second episode about the many uses of it. Lard is pig fat that is rendered down. The 2 main purposes, although there are many more, were to act as an oil to keep the meat from sticking to the pans, and the second way it was used was add a larder. Simply put, the meat was stored inside of the lard for long-term storage. Unlike other animals on this list, I have never known anyone who used pig poop. The reason is that pig diseases can transfer to people along with parasites. Not that your characters can usually find a lot of it with all the mud that they have played in. That said, there is another food source that they help with. If you have listened to some of my other episodes, you'll know that pigs can be used to make, to seal, or to reseal a pond. Ponds can be stocked with fish as another meat source. Ponds can also be a great place for water-dependent plants. Native Americans used to harvest wild rice in ponds, rivers, lakes, and anywhere else that it grew. Watercress and water chestnuts are also known to grow in water. If you're writing a specific area, make sure to research that area on what water-loving plants are native to that area. Number 4, chicken. Chicken is another yummy treat. In case you didn't guess it, I like meat. While chicken meat is good, you actually don't get as much chicken as you think you will. The chickens that are bought in stores are intentionally overfed and confined so that they have as much meat on them as possible. Many companies also feed their chickens hormones, and what takes me 6 months to raise in my backyard takes them 6 weeks. I know, because both of my parents used to work at chicken companies, and we raised chickens at home. Now, at 6 weeks, when commercial chickens were butchered, the meat that they get is between 4 and 6 pounds. When backyard birds, sometimes called heritage birds, are butchered, they yield 2 to 3 pounds. That's a big difference. Another important difference is that commercial chickens have larger breast meat, while backyard birds have more meat on their legs because they can move around more. And of course, we can't get away without talking about eggs. Now, it's true that smaller chickens like bantams lay fewer than most breeds, with only 50 to 200 eggs per year. Let's be real, most backyard chickens are a mix of egg layers and meat chickens. Let's compare them with the commercial chickens. Commercial chickens are bred for high egg yields. They will lay between 5 and 7 eggs per week. This means they lay 300 to 350 eggs per year. Backyard birds in history were either prolific layers laying 300 or more per year, or they were the typical egg layers that laid 2 to 300 per year. In modern times, these breeds have been mixed together until we no longer have any idea what breed it is anymore. These hybrid birds can be typical egg layers to jaw-dropping. I tell you about my chickens because, well, that's the ones I have experience with. I have roughly 30 hens with a few roosters. The perfect rooster-to-hen ratio is 7 to 10 hens for every one rooster. Yes, this does matter. Our chickens are a mix of Rhode Island Red, Dominique, Bluff Orpingtons, and Plymouth Rocks. Currently, I'm getting 10 to 20 dozen eggs per week. Yes, you heard that right. Well, I want to say I have amazing chickens. My neighbors in the area have the same, and they get normal amounts or even less than we do. We have compared notes, and we feed our chickens the same food, have the same hen-to-rooster ratio, and we all let our chickens free range on days when it is safe to do so. I live in Tornado Alley, so there are some days where it's not safe for them to do that. Now, there are only 2 things that I do differently than my neighbors. First, we have added more protections from predators. My chicken coop is inside a huge 1-acre fenced-in area that goes all the way around where the kids and dogs can play, and at night, our dogs are able to protect the chicken coop from all sides. This keeps them safe from things like skunks, raccoons, possums, coyotes, coy dogs, wolves, anything else that wants to hunt them up here. We have also strategically left trees on 3 sides of the chicken coop. This prevents chicken hawks from swooping down and snatching chickens. They do not have enough airspace to land or take off. These 2 things mean that our chickens do not waste their energy worrying about predators. Plus, chickens will stop laying for a day to 3 days after an attack. The next thing that we did was to build a huge chicken coop. It's about 12 feet by 10 feet. If you break that down, it's roughly 4 square feet per chicken. While our neighbors seem to have 1 square foot or less per chicken in their chicken coops. Is this definitely a contributing factor? Well, likely. Close quarters are stressful on birds, and chickens need to be inside the coop at night to keep them safe from predators and the elements. Environmental factors like these can affect egg production. Now, will your characters have the same results? I don't know. You're writing them. But trust me, neighbors talk and we'll compare notes. Of course, some neighbors think that I'm holding out on them about the food that I feed my chickens. Outside of the worms when it rains, I don't know what else I haven't thought of to tell them. My point is that in real life, people think that others know tricks, and sometimes you just get lucky, and so can your characters. A few egg-laying notes. Chickens molt in spring and fall. During this 1 to 2 week time, they will not lay as much and can even stop laying for a time. This is perfectly normal. Another time they stop laying is if they are sitting on eggs to hatch them. This is what we call getting broody. It takes 21 days to hatch an egg, and the hen will stop laying during this time. And just like cows and rabbits, chicken poop is good fertilizer. Most people don't know, but these chickens are little pooping machines. I have dirt floors in my chicken coop, and once or twice a month, I have to dig a new hole for the door to open it because they have pooped so much inside that it stops the door from opening. Number 5, bees. Did you see this one coming? Bees make honey, and honey is a natural sweetener. There are caveman paintings of humans collecting honey, and in ancient Egypt, maybe even before, they were keeping beehives. I have a whole episode on honey and a separate one of beekeeping and beeswax if you want to learn more. If stored properly, honey doesn't go bad. There are reports of Egyptian tombs being opened and the honey was still good to eat. Not only that, but honey is used as a way to preserve fruit. While these are important things, the most important job that bees have is to pollinate our crops. Yes, 90% of all crops in all of the world are pollinated by bees. If we lost bees, we would lose 90% of our crops. That is how important their pollination is. That's why, even though I have a mild phobia of flying things with stingers, I don't kill bees. Now, wasps, they're a whole nother story. Now, before we go further, we need to cover a few points on historical meat consumption. It's a lot more complicated than it is today. Let's start with how much meat was eaten. The records are a little sparse for this, but I do find that in medieval Europe in the 15th century, the average person ate about 12 ounces of meat per day. That adds up to about 280 pounds per year, or about 70 pounds per season. Other records of the same time show that royal families eating about 2.4 pounds of meat per day in the winter months. In 1810, there are records of sailors and soldiers being rationed 4 pounds of meat per week. Other important things to consider are that livestock are slaughtered at the beginning of winter to take advantage of the natural refrigeration that winter brings. This gives them more time to preserve the meat through salting, smoking, or drying, or even other methods. Plus, that is one less thing to feed in the winter. Your character will want to eat the meat before it spoils, meaning they will likely consume more meat during the winter months. Plus, consuming more calories in the winter also helps the body to stay warm. This means your character is likely to consume more meat-heavy meals in the wintertime. Also, their occupation could help decide if they are likely to consume meat more than the average person. As stated, rich characters can afford more. Fishermen, livestock owners, hunters, trappers, butchers, or even taxidermists have access to more meat. No matter their status, meat was usually extended as far as they could make it go. They might have 1 pound for a day and a family of 10. They could shave off small pieces to add to eggs like an omelet to go with some porridge, and then use the rest of it in a stew and add some vegetables to it. Perhaps they have a ham for Christmas and they scrape off all of the last pieces on the bone the next day to use for ham and beans. The bone will be saved to make bone broth. Historically, people rarely let food go to waste. Fun fact. The bloody feud between the Hatfields and McCoys started over a stolen pig. One quick reminder before we get into all the ways things could possibly go wrong in your story. To help others find this content, pop on over to Apple Podcasts and leave me a review. Or, if you're watching on YouTube, drop me a comment and say hello or ask a question. This is the best way to help others find my content. And now for everyone's favorite part, what could possibly go wrong in your story? Likely to go wrong. Your character leaves milk out too long and it goes bad. Also likely to go wrong. Your character gathers eggs from the chicken coop. On their way to the house, they trip. The basket that they were carrying the eggs in falls and shatters all of the eggs. This is why the saying, "don't put all your eggs in one basket," exists. Possible to go wrong. Your character goes to gather eggs. The rooster decides to flog them. This might hurt. Also possible to go wrong. Your character is feeding their rabbit in its cage when their rabbit attacks them, biting and clawing them. While some rabbits are friendly, or will at least stay away from your character if they don't like people, a few have been known to attack. Unlikely to go wrong. Your character goes to milk a cow and walks behind it. The cow kicks them. This could cause serious injury or even be deadly. Also unlikely to go wrong. Your character is a beekeeper and goes out collecting honey. In the process, they get stung. However, they have been stung so many times that this time, their body has an allergic reaction. If they don't get help quickly, this could be deadly. Improbable, but still technically in the realm of possibilities. Your character tries to use pig poop in the garden. They unknowingly contract a pig disease. This could be deadly. Thanks for listening. Until next time, happy wordsmithing!